All right, welcome everyone. I am going to be discussing groups and 1 second here. I don't know what's going on my phone. Whatever. Yeah, discussing groups, some kind of changes that I made to the groups, as well as thinking about moving forward with using Redis for saving state. So again, there's this kind of nagging feeling that I'm going to design myself into a corner regarding state and all those things. So I'm going to discuss a bit about that as well. And I'm going to just kind of go through the group changes that I made and write some tests for them, because I think I'm at a point now where I can write tests for the 1v1 and probably the 3v3. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So last time when I was writing the groups, I had everything inside of a single group object, and I was noticing I was writing lots of like, if this is size of 1, then do this. If it has multiple players, do that. And I was like, okay, this clearly needs to be separated into their own objects. So I created an interface for the groups where they just share commonality between them. The only thing that isn't really used in the 1v1 is a remove player. So usually when you're designing interfaces, if you have concrete objects that are implementing those, and they have these kind of conditions, like, I'll give you an example for the remove player. Like, basically there are no ops for that particular concrete instance. It's usually a bad sign, design-wise, but I only have one of them. But if this starts to grow out to more, I'll reconsider. But I think for now, I think just having an interface of group and then having the size identifier or method to determine whether or not this is going to be a multiple team group or just a single player group. So I think I'm good with that. And also it just cleaned up a lot of the logic for, add player, that's another one actually. So there's 2 of them. But again, if it doesn't get any worse, I'm not too concerned. So the interface methods themselves are pretty straightforward now, because with the 3v3, it's a lot more complicated because you have to broadcast all the changes to the users. So, for example, if they lock a character, you need to tell all the other characters, like, hey, this player just locked this character, so you can no longer use it, so don't try to change your character to that character. So there's definitely more complexity there, but I removed a lot of it by separating the 1v1s and the 3v3s. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about that. But I still, again, I have this kind of suspicion that I'm going to run into issues when I start thinking about how to use Redis for this. And what I want to do in the future is to have Redis be in a pub sub state, so you publish and subscribe. So a lot of these group broadcast messages would go across to over Redis, and then I would dispatch all the messages. And I was thinking before, when I drew that thing of having Nginx in front and then the game servers behind it, I was like, oh, well, what about the WebSocket connections? Like, these are all game servers. Just for fun, I'm going to try to draw a G again. Oh, I actually did a little better at that time. Okay, so all these game servers. And I was worried about, like, oh, you have to reconnect the WebSockets if players are on a different connection. It's like, well, no, if you have Redis in here, oh my God, hold on. If you have Redis in here, I probably should have made that like the circle thing that they do for database or data stores. So if you have Redis and it's got the publish and subscribe channels, all the game servers can basically connect to those. And when a new connection, you could have like app server 1, app server 2, or game server 3, like domain names. So it'd be like 1 dot whatever battleometry, which is what I'm calling this game. Then from the website, they would just basically be round robin to one of these game servers. And then once they were there, I was thinking of having basically a small LRU cache for each of these. So that would be least recently used LRU caches. So basically, as connections or whatever, or client ID information. So let's say there's a game that's running on this game server and it needs to know about clients 1, 2, and 3, and 1's here, 2's here, and 3's here. If it needs to know about that, it's probably going to have to pull in the data from Redis and store it in a cache. So all these client IDs and client objects would be available on that game server, so it can run its little world here. So what that means is you don't have to worry about, you can basically scale these horizontally. You can have as many as you want, provided they have the ability to communicate to this Redis cache. And then with Redis cache, you can also scale those horizontally by having clusters. So you could have a Redis cluster, and you can do that in a number of ways. Usually you shard it by key. So like accounts 1 through 10 would be on the first Redis cluster, and the accounts 11 through 20 would be on the second Redis cluster, or node, I guess we'd call them. So I think that would probably make the most sense if I were to really need to scale this out. But then I'm like, okay, I'm writing a game that has a 1% chance of survival. It can already handle 10,000 clients. I'm not going to spend 3 weeks or 2 weeks or whatever it takes to implement all that. But I still, let's say the moons align and this game does actually take off, I need to be able to not design myself into a corner where I'm at the point where, oh, I can't do this now because, or I have to rewrite all of this code because I can no longer match that horizontally scaled structure and whatever. So whenever I'm creating new structures and anything that contains state, I'm always keeping in the back of my mind, like, okay, how would this work with Redis, or how would this work with a data store? So looking at the server, just as a very basic example, it's like, okay, if we have multiple game servers, they need to have IDs. So I just added an ID method to this game server, because when you register a client, let's say a client connects to game server 1, you would want to put that in Redis saying, hey, client user X is on this server, just so you know. And that way, especially for disconnects and reconnects, because you'll need to know which they were on to tell them, hey, you need to clear this client ID from your local cache because they just connected to me, and give me all the information. Again, that would go through Redis. So I'm feeling like that should be the safe way of going about this. So I'm not going to do Redis yet, and I may never do it, because, like, let's say I build the game, I get everything working, and I'm like, wow, this game sucks. Like, this is just not fun at all. I could have saved 3 weeks of not implementing Redis to just focus on building the game, trying out the gameplay, seeing if I like it. So I just think it makes way more sense to go that way. So that is what I'm doing. So with that in mind, going to look at the 1v1. Let's look at their states again. So we have the flow for 1v1 groups. Does that make it bigger? Oh, it doesn't make it bigger. That's a bummer. We have only 3 components for the group. We have the leader, which is the client, the server, and then the group. For connecting, it's pretty straightforward. They connect, they send a create group. The group gets created, gets sent the group ID, and it sends it back to the leader so he knows what group ID is in, so he can use that in further messages. Destroying group, again, very basic. You just say, hey, I don't want to be in a group anymore by myself, so just destroy it, and then it can remove it from the server cache as well as just destroy it internally if it needs to do anything else. And then the select character state. So this one's kind of interesting because they need to do this 3 times, because they're going to be able to basically choose 3 characters and play as 3 characters at the same time. So they're going to have their healer, their tank, and their damage class, and they're going to have to control all of them, so they'll need to select multiple characters, which was interesting because the way that I originally had the client interface, it only had 1 character, and I was like, well, that's clearly not going to work. If 1 character or 1 player can control multiple characters, they need to have slots. So I added a very basic kind of a slice of character slots to handle those situations, and that will also work out for the 3v3 clients, because 3v3 games, because let's say a user drops, they rage quit or whatever, they just give up, you could elect to take over that character or boot it to AI. So if you elected to take it over, you would need some method of signaling that I own this character, I control it, it's in this slot. So I think having these slots is going to make a lot of sense going forward. So that's what I did for that. And pretty much, yeah, so they have to select 3 characters, and then they have to lock in, and it says we'll auto queue. So what I'm thinking here is that they'll select the 3 characters, and then when they click the queue me for the game or queue match, it'll basically, it's not really going to have a set ready flag, but what it's going to do is it's going to automatically lock the characters, and then from there it'll basically determine if it's a valid group. Like if it has all the correct characters, make sure that there are all different character types. You can't play one game with 3 of the same character, things like that. So we'll do some validation there. And I don't know if I want to make this a separate. I think this will just be called character enter queue, because then it'll do the locking automatically. So I'm going to need to have a group enter queue message as well. So other changes that I made, I started to flesh out the group message. So I'm adding a bit more properties to it. We have the group ID, player ID, size, character ID, and all these are omit empty. So if it's a message that doesn't need that data, it won't include it. And I also changed the reason from a string to an error response. And then error responses have like validation failed, server processing error, invalid data, etc., leader quit error. So these are ways to very quickly and easily signal back or broadcast to other users that something happened, or if you send invalid data, it'll be like, hey, stop being a jerk. So, and then I just created some helper things for marshalling the network messages down, so it's easier to look at when you're looking at the client and server code. So going back to 1v1, we have, again, a pretty simple implementation. Now we just have a single group ID and a player. Those are the only 2 properties for now. Size is obviously set to 1. Add player, you can't do that because you're 1v1. Destroy group, I guess, yeah, I'd probably want to send a message back saying, hey, I got your destroyed message, and here's the response. So then they can do a UI refresh or update. Select character, this got changed to include a slot. So now when they select characters, it's going to set a slot. So pretty much every time they click a button like, oh, I want to check out this character and read about it for whatever slot, it'll basically send a message like, hey, the UI just selected this character. Keep that in memory so that when they lock it in, you know what I'm talking about. And then lock characters are a little bit more complicated because we need to make sure that if they're not locked and they try to lock or they try to unlock, then that's not right. So we should just return from that. Actually, I should probably return a message, which I think I'm going to do. And I'll log it too, because that's an awkward state for the game to be in. Like someone's basically messing around if they're trying to do this, because the UI shouldn't allow this. So we're going to send a message, and we're going to send a message, error, new group error response. And the reason is invalid data, maybe? Do I want to do that? What kind of error do I want to go in? Yeah, whatever. I can always change it if it doesn't make sense. So, send that message. Is this returning an error? Oh, so, okay, so I'll just fire that message off, and just in case, we'll handle the error here and not propagate it back up. Oh, you know what? I don't need to do that because I have a method already built for sending messages and handling errors. So just send message. Where was I? Send message. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. And then we're good. So that'll respond back to the user saying you're trying to do something funny. And this one, otherwise it locks the character. Right, unlock the character, broadcast to other players. Okay, this is not broadcast anymore. That's from the 3v3. So we're going to lock the character for that slot and then tell them that that character's been unlocked. Oh yeah, because it's not locked. So not locked means unlocked, basically. So basically it'll send back to the UI saying, hey, you unlocked this character, we got your message, go ahead and continue on. And then we're going to pull out the actual character and then the locked flag, and then if it's already locked and they're trying to send us a locked message, just return, because that doesn't make any sense. We could log there, whatever, I don't care right now. And then we're going to send a message that say, hey, you locked, actually I did not actually lock that character. So G player lock character lock flag. I mean, it's true, but whatever. And then the slot. So for whatever slot they chose. So they are now locked for that slot, and then they can basically get a response. Remove player doesn't make any sense. Send message. So I think that's pretty much it, except for enter queue. And enter queue, I think, I don't know if the group needs to know about that, because the matchmaker will. Yeah, I might have to change that, but I think for now. So for the set ready flag, I think I'm just going to make a method, g group 1v1, and it is valid. So this is going to basically be the ready flag. So what it should do is for the player, I need to check every slot, and then make sure they're all locked. So what I'm going to do for 3 plus, because there's only 3 characters, I should probably make that a constant. For now, let's do here const max slots equals 3. It's never a good sign when you just see random constant values there. If you can, always try to set them so they have names. And then I need to get it. So in this case, we're going to get a, we actually don't care about the character, we just want to know if it's locked. And then we need to make sure that they're all locked. If not locked, return false. And then we'll just return true. But one thing I might need to do, oh wait, no, I think inside of character, I check if, that's weird, why doesn't it bring me the character? Ugh, I don't remember how to jump to it. Oh, there we go. Right, so here, if the slot was empty, like it didn't have a character ID, then it would just return nil and false, so I shouldn't have to worry about any nil checks there. So the way that the client's set up now is it has character slots, and those character slots have the character IDs, and then if it's locked or not. So it's just a simple slice of those structs. And basically as they set their character, it sets the slot to a new character ID, and then the default value for the struct is false. And then once they do lock it, this is actually not correct. So one thing that's kind of weird about having the client state, so I had these various client states that they could be in, like they're disconnected, connected, enter group, character selected, character locked. Since we have multiple slots, we only know if that state's going to be true if all of them are there. So actually what I could do is I could iterate over all of the slots, and if they are locked, then change. So what I can do, this is what I can do. So if the character is locked, because we only want to check if the character is locked, then we need to basically iterate over all the characters for character in range, character IDs. Oh, that's going to be an index, right? Right, so actually don't care about, oh yeah, no, that's right. Care dot locked. character is not locked. Character is not locked. We're just going to return. Otherwise, we will set the state to being locked. So update state is going to basically set the state for the client, as well as update the time of when the state was set. So we should be good there. Set character should happen first. We could probably just update the state here, just continuously update it. So every time they selected a slot, we would just update it to game.character selected. Not G, I'm not in a group, I'm a client. Cool. That does not need to be there, does it? Nope. Alright. Actually, you know what? Try to reduce nesting as much as possible. Not locked. Okay. So now we know we're locked. So it's much easier on the eyes. You're like, okay, so it's definitely in the locked state, so now we should check if every character is locked. And then we have a much nicer, easier to read set of code. Cool. So with that set, we now have the character lock state. We can go back to, where was I? Groups. 1 second. Figure out what's going on with my chat. I don't know why I can't see it on my phone. That is weird. View dashboard. Hey, there we go. Okay, just make sure no one's typing me. So we have our character. This looks like a mock character. Yeah, this is mock. I don't care about that. Don't care about group messages right now. Group 1v1. Enter queue, I still gotta add that. Again, don't care about that. Where was I? I was in group 1v1. Alright, so now we have our is valid check. We can basically, although for 1v1, we could probably just check. We don't have to do this anymore. We can do return g.player get state is equal to game.client character locked. That's much easier. Right, because that would only be set in the event that all 3 characters were locked. Good. That's good. I'm going to rename this invalid for key, because otherwise it's ambiguous what I'm talking about. And this is exported, so I'm going to put that above the unexported ones. Cool. So I think we're at the point where we can now write tests. Don't need this anymore. It's good. So let's make a group 1v1 test. And we're going to beat the crap out of this thing. See if it falls over. New file. Group 1v1. Okay, server. Yeah, I'll do an internal test. Tests. What are we going to test first? Test. Add player returns. Nice and easy. So basically create a new group 1v1. Equal to new group 1v1. We need a mock client. Mock client. ID is 154. Pass that in. We now have a group. And we're going to assert that adding an error, or adding a player. Yeah, we'll just add this in. Add player. Make sure that returns an error, and we're good. Sweet. Next, we're going to test select characters works. So select character. Now this might be kind of weird because I don't actually have a valid character. so we'll see what happens. So we're going to create our new group 1v1. We're going to then select a character. And actually, we should probably validate that the message that we're handling this for actually is from, yeah, let's do some validation here. So if player ID is not equal GLPlayer.id. Check that. That's good. So first off, we're going to make sure that it just works. So assert no error t group select character and then player.id, and then let's just do this character 0 and slot 0. Now this will probably oh, there's no error, so I'll do the good old does this crash. This is going to crash probably because I didn't implement some message. It did not. Alright, so I guess my mock client has everything defined. Yep. So what I could do here is I want to make sure that the select character is actually making it and that it's actually going to send a message to that character. So what I'm going to do is actually client, mock client, and we're going to use functional ops here. What do I have for functional ops? So we have a with character, with player stats, with update, get state, and I need to test for set character and send message. So set character, maybe get character, or just character, and then I need to override send message. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to have set character function is equal to mock dot set character. I don't have one yet. Okay, well, I'm just going to override the oh no, I do need to do it with the options. Where's my mock? Where did my mock go? Mock character. Wait, do I want mock character or do I want mock client? No, I want mock client. My bad. So set character function. So with set character, let's make a set character function, and the function definition is this. So we need to take in one of those, and then we need to also return the client. It's like a builder pattern basically. Return closure with the new set character function overridden with our character function. So then from here we can do mock with set character, and it's going to be function that's going to fill it out for us. So we're going to say actually I'm going to change this to 1 and 1 so I can test it. ID or expected. Expected slot. Alright, don't need that. And then it's going to return, it's going to set expected character is equal to character ID, and the expected slot is equal to slot. So then we can assert equal t expected character is equal to 1. Actually, this should be not expected. Expected is 1. So this will be result count and result slot. Yeah, we'll just hard code it for now. Assert equal t result slot 1. So if everything is good, this should, when it's called, set those values. Yay. Cool. And now we have another reusable pattern here. Always good. Right, so what else did I need to test? Oh yeah, character. So I also need to add another mock with character. And we're going to set this with, we want to see that if it's calling that, it's going to return yeah, you know, I'm going to test out all the locking and stuff in a different one and selecting all characters, making sure the state. Actually, no, I can check the state. So I need to actually check the mock with state. Update state. I don't know why it's complaining about that. Oh, I need to know. I thought it did. Anyways, let me do this one first. Make sure it works. Oh yeah, I probably just need to fix this first. So, okay, we're gonna have our with character. So if it's going to get results character, it's going to be equal to that slot. So this should also be the same. That needs to return. It's going to return nil for now, but also false. So we're going to say that it's not locked because, yeah, character returns both the character and the locked state. So that's that. And then we need a mock get state. Or do I want to set state or both? Probably both. No. No, I need to do send. Yeah, no, I wanted to test state too. So right now by default it just says you're connected. So I'm going to override that with state. With update state function, and we're going to return cs dots. Oh no, we're going to return game dots character selected. Right? That's. Oh, no. That's just setting. I don't care about that. We just want to make sure it gets called. So we're just going to say was called. So make sure was called. So let's rename this in a second. Why does that give me squigglies? Declare but not used. Ooh, oh, because I'm never testing it. What is called, and I'm going to rename this to was update state called. That should also pass. It did not. It should be true. So we are not updating the state when the character is selected. That tells me something's wrong, considering we're calling select character. Set character. Group one view. Oh no, not the call sites. Alt F. Not references. Oh, whatever. It's in. Go back. Client. Set character. That's weird. So it should definitely be calling update state. Debug and find out why that's not working. God, I cannot keep track of my stuff today. No. Test. Thank you. So let's see. Debug. It's going to call into that. Calls the ID function, which we've just overridden. And then it calls the group select character. Double checks the IDs. That calls client set character. It's going to call our overridden function. Oh, that's why. Because it's not calling this. Yeah. Okay, so the problem was that it was not calling the update state because I overwrote the set character function. So that makes sense. It looks like send message is definitely getting called, but it's always good to so we don't want that, but we do want send message. So let's just do that one instead. Send message. It's send message. And I don't think I actually implemented a functional option for that. So we need to go back to our clients. With send message. Send function is equal to func. Yeah, that's the function definition. Just an interface. And we return a client closure rather. And then we're going to override the send message function with ours. Cool. And then we go back to our test with send message. So we could actually decode it and make sure it looks right here, but I'm just gonna see if it was called. Was send message called. Oh, cool. And not what? Line 44. Result slot 4 character was no longer called. What did I change? Alright, we will figure out why that was not set. That's bizarro. Oh wait, expected 0. Actual 1. Right, that should be 1. Because everything else worked. So why was set character? Do I not call? Oh wait a minute, maybe I don't even call it. Clients. Nope, nope. Group 1v1. I never call it. Because you select the character. Right, so we call set character, which is overridden. And again, we're testing the group, not the character. I gotta remind myself I'm testing the group object, not the character object. So we want to just make sure it's calling set character and send message. So I don't know why I overrode that, because it's not necessary, unless it's crashing. Yep, don't need to do it anymore. Okay, cool. So I think that's good for selecting character. And now we want to test, although, yeah, I'm not going to do any checking to see if they've selected the same character for different slots yet. It's only when they go to lock that I'll actually do that, because they might just forget about it and then want to go back. It'd be annoying if it popped up saying, you already selected this character. So I'm not going to worry about that. All right, so now we're going to test the lock character. Just going to copy this. And blah. So in this case, we're going to create a new group 2. New group 1v1. And where's lock character? So that requires player ID, locked flag, and then the slot. So this one has a number of conditions I need to test. Like, is the character locked? Are they sending the unlocked flag or the locked flag? Do they even have a character at that slot? Like all these various things. So this one's probably going to get a little bit messy, but we'll see. So we definitely need to override. Actually, send message we don't really care about. We just let the default one go through. Definitely set character because I have to set a character first. I'm gonna need this too. Should test the happy path first. So we're gonna select was it player character ID 1, 2, 3, and then 0, 1, 2 for the slots. So this is the happy path, and then they are going to send lock characters. Again, there's a lot of logic in here I probably don't need for a 1v1, because when you hit Q, it's just going to automatically lock them. No, that's not, yeah, because it'll need to check to make sure that they're not selecting the same character. Stupid validation makes everything complicated. So result character, result slot, don't need that anymore. I think I can actually just, no, I do. In fact, I'm going to make a map of the same thing. So map, oh, it's an exported. Oh wait, no. I think I'm doing an internal test so I can access it. So we're going to have a, what was that object? It was a client. Yep, character slot. So we're just going to make a mock one here. Slots is equal to make slice a character slot pointers. I mean, at some point here you start like implementing the same exact code that's in it, but whatever. There's 3 of them. Then we're just going to do slots slot is equal to character slot, and then character ID is equal to character ID. So again, we're not really testing the implementation of character, we're just testing the logic of the group of the clients in those certain conditions. That's why I'm kind of rewriting this stuff as opposed to using a full client or whatever. So, just so you're aware. Alright, we also need to, with character, or with locked, which I've never implemented. So I need to implement that in our mock client. Where was it? Get state, get character, lock character. There we go. With what's this? Character. It's a lock function of this. Again, returning. I'm just gonna copy this. This will be locked. Character function is equal to lock function. Alright, now I can do with locked character, and I'm going to, yeah, I'll just do the same thing that I'm doing in a regular client, which is basically this. And I'm not going to update the state just yet anyways. So take that. Slots. And figure out why it's not liking this. Is this maybe? What does it want from me? Expected statement found blah. Oh. There we go. So now we have our lock character. And yeah, I think the group 1v1 is valid. Okay, so it checks the state. So we can't really do that, but we can just test it internally just to make sure that everything is locked. So we run the test, and then we want to assert. I don't know if there's a way to assert all of them at once, but I'm just going to iterate over it. Less than slots, and then we need to. Where am I? My head is not on right now. Apologies. Okay, so our slots, iterate through them, and then we need to assert that it is true that the characters, slots at I locked is true. Oh wait, no. Should be true, should be true. Sorry if I didn't, why I didn't set that. Oh, because I never actually called lock. G.lock character. And then lock value is true. And then slot 0. I'm just going to do it this way. I mean, why not? Select character, and then lock character. Okay. So we iterate over all the types of slots. There's 3 of them. We select the character. Character ID should be I+1. And then it's I for the slot, so it'll be 0, 1, 2. Same for the slots for the lock character. And then we just check that that particular one is actually locked. Well, what? Oh, client lock character. I am not setting, I'd never set that character function. Func and slot. And then right, no. Slot.locked. This needs to be nil because again I don't actually have a character object yet. I haven't implemented that. Pretty sure it should be -1, but I can't remember. Whoa. Test lock character valid. Did I choose something wrong here? Client.go. Called into that. Oh, if character lot. Slots. Character. Why is that empty? Let's find out. That one's fine. Let's make sure our slots look good. Only 1 so far. That's fine. And then we have, what's our call stack look later? Lock character. Just called from group. Just called from our test. Should be fine, but it's looking like it's empty. And then it panics. Or, you know, gets stuck in a loop. What is going on here? Pause. Let's look at this logic again. Not client, we're overriding with character, set character, and then locked character. We're using the same object for all three, setting it, iterating over it, pulling out the character, checking if it's locked. If it's not locked, return. Oh, because, yeah, I mean, that stuff, actually, that really doesn't matter. I probably can get rid of that, but actually, yeah, I don't need that. Oh, that's why it's panicking. I don't need this code because while I made it, I never actually assigned anything yet. So it's trying to iterate over all the slots, and I haven't created those yet. But I don't need to because I'm not testing the whole condition there. I only need to know that it's getting to the locked characters. So that's why that's crashing out. And this one is probably, oh, send message. Okay. And then we'll steal the one from up here. Actually, I don't even care. Just gonna get rid of that. Cool. It's just one thing after another. Send message. Why is that hating me? G player send message. Huh. Lock character is called. It's calling G send message. I wonder what's, oh, character? Yeah. That doesn't exist. So I need to return, okay, I guess I gotta make a mock character because this is just causing me too much headache to pretend otherwise. I have a mock character, God. Damn it. Right. With character. Mock character. Character type. Game dot damage character. Sure. Just for now. Run test. Thank you. Jeez. That's crazy. Yeah. Okay. So we have the happy path tested. And for locking characters. So one thing we might want to test is that, I mean, that's, wow, there's really not a lot of logic in this, which is nice. But I mean, there's so many different states, which makes it a pain to test for because you got to test all these different conditions. So probably what I want to do, test lock character, all locked. And then I want to just copy this probably again, or should I just, yeah, I'll just copy it again. And I want to test the not so happy path. Although I guess this might not do anything. I don't know. I want to test. Well, actually, let's take a step back here. What am I not testing? Let's run coverage. Oh. Yay. Okay, so validation for UIDs works. What is that test? Totally different test. There you go. Oops. So this was a test message validation, and I apparently did not run this test since I modified that. So I'm just going to do a ready new before. Don't. Just don't do this. Cool. Make sure that works. Process group failed. Different test. Mock client. Oh, group ID. Haha. Still doesn't like it. Group message failed for the UID tag. Server test. Process group message. group message, group ID validation for group ID failed on UID tag. Should be down here. Let's go back. Debug. So it's going to validate the struct of group message. Group message should have UIDs. It doesn't. Good to know. Did it not marshal correctly? Debug console. Oh, it doesn't have them. It shouldn't be. That's bizarre. I thought with go validate, you didn't need to. It would ignore it if it was not set to required. So if it was omitted. Because I omit it. Or sorry, I omit this one. PID and GID. I'm sure there's a flag for it. For now, I am just going to ignore that. And I'll enable it later. But that's good to know. Server test, run test. Thank you. Yeah, because it's not even processing that type of message. So, oh, maybe it is. And it's group create requested. No, it's not. We shouldn't have it. Okay, I don't know. I will debug that one later. Let's get this test working. 4 client tests. Right, so I wanted to check coverage. Give me coverage. We have an abysmal level of coverage, but whatever. That will be fixed. So right now, testing that, not testing that, not testing that. Just for a group, doesn't matter. Oh no, it does matter. Actually, I do need to. I'll add a quick test for that. I think if I touch anything, it's going to remove. All right, so let's see. Lock character. It's testing the happy path. I do want to test this logic here. You know, I'm just going to make a test invalid methods returns error. Or, yeah. Oh, that's funny. Add player has an error, but remove player doesn't. I should probably change that. Remove player. I don't know. Do I care? I don't really care. I don't think there's a condition. Yeah, I mean, you might want to notify the user that they are removed incorrect, or weren't removed, or weren't being able to be removed. But I can test all that later. But yeah, I think next steps here will be writing more tests, get all this coverage worked out, fix that validation thing, and then tomorrow I will hopefully have enough to move forward with the group 3v3, and then I can start digging into the matchmaking and queuing stuff. So that is pretty much it for today. Yeah, hope someone learned something out there. Yeah, thank you. Whoa.